In the dim glow of the living room lamp, I felt a shiver of unexpected warmth as my dog's soft fur brushed against my skin, awakening a longing I hadn't named in years. It wasn't the kind of intimacy I'd chased in heated whispers or stolen touches with my boyfriend, no. This was deeper, a silent communion that stirred my soul and made my heart ache with recognition. For 6 long years, we'd built a life together, weaving through the highs of shared laughter and the lows of quiet storms. But lately, an invisible chasm had opened between us, leaving me adrift in a sea of unspoken needs. I remember the early days when every glance felt electric, his hand grazing mine, sending subtle sparks that promised more than just companionship. We'd lose ourselves in conversations that stretched into the night, bodies close, breaths mingling in a rhythm that felt as natural as the tide. But time had worn those edges smooth, turning passion into routine. And I found myself yearning for that elusive spark again, not just the physical pull, but the emotional tether that made me feel truly alive, truly seen. It started subtly, like a whisper in the wind. Evenings where we'd sit side by side on the couch, our bodies touching but our minds worlds apart, the air thick with what we weren't saying. One night, as the city lights flickered outside our window, I tried to bridge the gap. I leaned into him, my fingers tracing lazy circles on his arm, hoping the gentle caress would ignite something familiar. He smiled, but it was distant, his eyes fixed on the screen, and the moment slipped away like sand through my fingers. I pulled back, a quiet ache blooming in my chest, wondering if this was the new normal, a relationship sustained by habit rather than heart. The emotional emptiness gnawed at me, making every shared meal feel like a performance. Every goodnight kiss a hollow echo of what once was. Then came that evening that shifted everything. A simple act that unraveled the threads of my complacency. My dog, usually content in his corner with a chew toy, padded over silently and hopped onto the couch beside me. At first, it was just his weight settling in, but then he nuzzled closer, his head resting gently against my chest, his breath warm and steady against my skin. In that instant, a wave of tenderness washed over me, subtle and profound like the first rain after a drought. It wasn't mere affection. It was an unspoken understanding, his presence wrapping around me like a soft embrace. Filling the voids I tried to ignore, I closed my eyes, letting the sensation sink in the warmth of his body pressing against mine. The rhythmic rise and fall that sensed with my own heartbeat. It stirred something sensual in its purity, not in a forbidden way, but in the raw vulnerability of being held without demand, without agenda. I felt seen, I felt understood. I whispered to myself, the words echoing the phrases that had haunted my thoughts. For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. His genuine, unconditional presence pierced through the walls I'd built, making me crave that depth in every connection as the minutes stretched. I reflected on how we drifted those subtle signs like forgotten anniversaries. Conversations that skimmed the surface without diving deep. Nights where we'd lie in bed, bodies entwined but spirits detached. The curiosity of what had caused this wall gnawed at me. Was it the grind of daily life or something unspoken festering beneath? My dog's quiet companionship highlighted the contrast. His instinctive knowing offering a comfort my boyfriend seemed unable to provide, leaving me to wonder if we could ever recapture that emotional fire. Deeper into the night, I stroked his fur, each touch a reminder of the emotional intimacy I'd been starving for. His presence was so genuine, so unconditional, I thought, the phrase capturing the essence of what I'd lost. It wasn't about grand gestures. It was about feeling wanted, cherished in the quiet moments. Yet, as peaceful as this was, it stirred a restlessness. What if this revelation forced me to confront the growing distance head-on, risking everything we'd built? The house grew quieter, the only sound his soft breathing mingling with mine, a symphony of unspoken solace. I realized then that true connection wasn't just proximity. It was vulnerability shared, hearts laid bare without fear. I realized that my dog was offering me something that I hadn't even realized I was craving. The insight hit like a gentle wave, pulling me towards self-discovery. But as the clock ticked on, a question lingered. How long could I ignore the emotional void with my boyfriend before it consumed us both? In that cocoon of warmth, doubts crept in. What if addressing this led to a fracture we couldn't mend? The curiosity of our relationship's subtle drift intensified. Those missed glances, the unspoken tensions, had they been warnings all along? As my dog shifted closer, his trust unwavering, I felt a surge of resolve, but the path ahead loomed uncertain. Teetering on the edge of change. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow on the room where I'd spent the night lost in thought. My dog's steady presence a reminder of the emotional depths I craved. I watched as my boyfriend stirred in bed, his form familiar yet distant, and I wondered how to voice the turmoil brewing inside me without shattering the fragile peace we'd maintained. The air felt heavy with unspoken words, each breath a step closer to the confrontation I both needed and feared. As if the simple act of speaking could unravel the threads holding us together, I poured coffee for us both, the steam rising like whispers of what could be, and sat across from him at the kitchen table, my fingers tracing the rim of the mug in a rhythmic motion that echoed my racing heart. "I've been thinking," I began softly, my voice barely above a murmur, laced with the vulnerability I'd felt the night before. He looked up, his eyes meeting mine with a flicker of concern. And in that gaze, I searched for the connection we'd once shared, the kind where a single look could convey volumes, making my skin tingle with anticipation and understanding. As we talked, I opened up about the growing void, describing how our routines had dulled the spark, leaving me yearning for moments where we'd truly see each other, bodies and souls intertwined in quiet harmony. Emotional intimacy isn't just about being close, it's about feeling understood, feeling safe in someone's presence, I said, the words tumbling out with a raw honesty that surprised even me. He nodded slowly, his hand reaching across the table to brush mine, a touch that sent a subtle warmth through me, rekindling memories of nights when such gestures led to deeper embraces, whispers against skin that promised forever. Yet as the conversation deepened, old patterns emerged, defenses I hadn't anticipated, excuses wrapped in the familiarity of our shared history. I felt a pang of disappointment, wondering if he truly grasped the depth of my longing, or if this was just another layer to peel away. I had been craving something that went beyond the surface level. Sharing a life, a deep emotional connection, I confessed, my voice trembling slightly, hoping he'd mirror my openness. The curiosity of those subtle signs from our past intensified. Had the missed opportunities, the unspoken resentments, been building like storm clouds we ignored? In the pause that followed, I recalled more vividly the night with my dog, how his uncomplicated affection had highlighted what was missing, a presence so pure it made me feel cherished without effort. It was a hard realization, but it was necessary. I couldn't keep living in this emotional void, I thought, the phrase echoing in my mind as I pushed forward. We explored the ways we drifted, busy schedules stealing our evenings, conversations reduced to logistics rather than dreams, bodies sharing space but not the intimate whispers that once made my heart race. He shared a side, admitting the distance had weighed on him too, his words carrying a sincerity that softened the edges of my doubt. "I didn't realize how much we'd let slip," he murmured, his fingers now interlacing with mine, the contact sending a gentle thrill, a reminder of the sensual undercurrents that had drawn us together years ago. We lingered there, the morning light warming our skin, discussing small changes, date nights where we'd reconnect without distractions, moments to simply hold each other and listen, rebuilding the emotional bridge one vulnerable step at a time. As the talk wound down, a tentative hope loomed, but beneath it, questions lingered. Would these promises hold? Or were they just words in the heat of the moment? The curiosity about whether deeper issues would resurface gnawed at me, making the air feel charged with possibility and peril. My dog's tail thumped softly from the floor, a grounding presence that urged me onward. Yet I couldn't shake the fear that this was only the beginning of a longer journey. We rose from the table, his arm slipping around my waist in a familiar hold that stirred subtle desires, a promise of closeness yet to be fully reclaimed. But as we moved through the day, the emotional undercurrents tugged at me. What if our efforts fell short, leaving the void wider than before? Days turned into weeks as we navigated the delicate dance of rebuilding, each small gesture a tentative bridge over the chasm that had formed between us. I'd catch him looking at me across the room, his eyes lingering with a warmth that hinted at rediscovered desire, and I'd feel a subtle flutter in my chest, like the first stirrings of a long-forgotten melody. We started with simple things, evenings without screens, where we'd sit close, his arm draped over my shoulders, the contact sending gentle waves of connection through me. reminding me of the sensual pull that had once defined us. One afternoon, we escaped to a nearby park, the sun filtering through leaves as we walked hand in hand, fingers intertwined in a way that felt both familiar and new. I felt seen, I felt understood, I murmured during a quiet pause, echoing the revelation from that pivotal night. As we shared stories from our past, fears we'd buried, dreams we'd set aside. His touch on my back was light yet intentional, evoking a lightness in my spirit, a subtle sensuality in the way our bodies moved in sync, promising deeper intimacy if we let it unfold naturally. But not every moment was seamless. There were stumbles, like the evening we tried to cook dinner together, laughter turning to frustration over spilled ingredients and mismatched timings. I sensed the old distance creeping back, a shadow in his eyes when conversations veered too deep, and I wondered if the emotional void was truly healing or merely patched. His presence was so genuine, so unconditional. I thought of my dog waiting at home, his unwavering loyalty a stark contrast that fueled my resolve to push through. Even as doubts whispered of unresolved tensions, we explored further, carving out time for whispered confessions in bed, bodies close under the sheets, the warmth of his skin against mine stirring emotions I thought faded. I realized that my dog was offering me something that I hadn't even realized I was craving. I shared one night, vulnerability lacing my words, hoping he grasped the depth of what I needed, not just physical nearness, but the emotional embrace that made me feel wholly cherished. His response was tender, a kiss that lingered with promise, yet I couldn't ignore the curiosity gnawing at me. What hidden resentments from our drift might resurface, testing our fragile progress? As we delved deeper, memories of our early passion resurfaced, nights where touches were electric, conversations flowing like wine, leaving us breathless and connected. Now we aim to recapture that with slow dances in the living room, his hands on my waist guiding me closer, the rhythm building a subtle tension that spoke of unspoken desires. But amid the hope, questions lingered. Had the subtle signs of our distance, those overlooked glances, the quiet withdrawals left scars too deep to fade completely? Evenings with my dog became my quiet refuge, his head in my lap as I reflected on our journey. The peace he offered a balm for the uncertainties ahead. Emotional intimacy isn't just about being close, it's about feeling understood. Feeling safe in someone's presence, I reminded myself, drawing strength from the phrase as we committed to more weekend getaways planned, promises to listen without judgment. Yet as one such trip approached, a nagging doubt emerged. What if his effort revealed incompatibilities we'd long ignored? The air between us grew charged with anticipation, his occasional brushes against my arm sending sparks of reconnection, but the path felt precarious, like walking a tightrope over the emotional abyss we'd nearly fallen into. I had been craving something that went beyond the surface level, sharing a life, a deep emotional connection. I confided during a heartfelt talk, our eyes locking in a moment of raw honesty. Still, the curiosity about whether our steps would hold intensified, especially as old habits threatened to pull us back in quieter times. I'd stroked my dog's fur, his trust a mirror to what I sought, amplifying the stakes of our renewal. It was a hard realization, but it was necessary. I couldn't keep living in this emotional void. The thought propelled me forward. Yet, as we packed for our escape, a subtle tension built what unforeseen challenge might arise, forcing us to confront if this was revival or merely delay. The drive to the cabin wound through misty hills, the scenery blurring as we left the city behind, his hand resting on my thigh in a gesture that carried the weight of our renewed intentions. The air inside the car hummed with quiet anticipation, conversations flowing easier now, laced with laughter that echoed the lighter moments of our past, reminding me of how his touch once set my skin alight with subtle fire. We arrived as dusk fell, the wooden retreat welcoming us with its seclusion, a perfect backdrop to nurture the emotional intimacy we'd vowed to reclaim. Unpacking in the cozy space, we moved in sync, his arms brushing mine as we arranged our things, each contact a whisper of the sensual connection we were rebuilding. I felt seen, I felt understood, I thought, recalling the dog's quiet gift. As we shared a glass of wine by the fire, flames dancing shadows across his face. We talked late into the night, vulnerabilities spilling out fears of inadequacy. Dreams deferred, his fingers tracing mine in a rhythm that stirred deeper longings, making me feel cherished in ways I'd almost forgotten. The next day brought hikes through sun-dappled trails, Our hands linked, bodies close as we navigated the path, the physical exertion mirroring the effort in our hearts. His presence was so genuine, so unconditional. The phrase resurfaced as I compared this to my dog's unwavering companionship, yet here it was human, flawed, and beautifully real. We paused at an overlook, his embrace pulling me in, the warmth of his chest against my back evoking a gentle sensuality, a promise that emotional depths could intertwine with physical ones once more. But as evening descended, a storm rolled in, both literal and metaphorical. Rain pattering against the windows like unspoken doubts. An argument sparked over something trivial, a forgotten reservation escalating to reveal. Lingering resentments from our distant months, voices rising in the confined space. I realized that my dog was offering me something that I hadn't even realized I was craving. I blurted in frustration, the words hanging heavy, highlighting how far we'd come yet how fragile it still felt. His eyes softened, but the tension lingered. Curiosity building. Would this setback undo our progress, exposing cracks too wide to mend? We reconciled under the covers, bodies seeking solace in familiar holds. His whispers against my neck carrying apologies that melted into tender explorations, rekindling the emotional fire with subtle passion. Emotional intimacy isn't just about being close, it's about feeling understood. Feeling safe in someone's presence, I murmured, our connection deepening in the quiet aftermath. Yet, as sleep evaded me, questions swirled. What if these highs were temporary, and the subtle drifts returned, forcing a harder choice? Morning brought clarity with coffee on the porch. The rain-cleansed air fresh as we reflected on the night before, committing anew to communication without barriers. I had been craving something that went beyond the surface level. Sharing a life, a deep emotional connection. He echoed my earlier sentiments, his hand squeezing mine with a sincerity that warmed me from within. We spent the day in gentle pursuits, reading side by side, occasional touches that spoke volumes. Building a rhythm of trust and desire. As the weekend waned, hope solidified, but beneath it, the curiosity of our relationship's resilience persisted. Had those overlooked signs from before been fully addressed, or were they waiting to resurface? Driving home, his profile silhouetted against the setting sun, I felt a mix of contentment and unease. What ultimate test might await, pushing us toward unbreakable bond or inevitable parting? Back in the rhythm of home, the cabin's lessons lingered like a soft afterglow, guiding us through daily life with renewed purpose. His casual touches now carrying the weight of intentional affection that made my skin hum with subtle electricity. We'd steal moments in the kitchen, his lips brushing my neck as we prepared meals. Whispers of appreciation weaving emotional threads stronger than before, turning ordinary routines into intimate rituals. My dog watched from his spot, his tail wagging in quiet approval. A reminder that true connection could spark from the simplest presences. Blending the platonic with the profound. We deepened our bond through shared vulnerabilities. Evenings where we'd lie entwined, bodies warm and close. Confessions flowing like gentle streams, admitting how the distance had scared us both. Fearing loss of the fire that once ignited our nights. I felt seen, I felt understood, he said one twilight. Mirroring my own epiphany, his hand caressing my arm in a way that stirred sensual memories. Reaffirming our commitment to nurture the emotional intimacy we'd nearly lost. Yet, even in these highs, the curiosity of our past drifts echoed faintly. What if life's pressures tested us again, revealing if our foundation was truly solid? Challenges arose like a stressful week at work that pulled him away. But we countered with deliberate reconnection, a surprise picnic under stars. His embrace enveloping me in safety, the night air charged with whispers that danced on the edge of desire. His presence was so genuine, so unconditional, I reflected, drawing parallels to my dog's loyalty which had awakened me to seek the same purity in our love. We learned to communicate without barriers, turning potential conflicts into opportunities for closeness, bodies and hearts aligning in harmonious rhythm. As months passed, the transformation felt complete, our relationship blooming into something richer, where emotional depths enhanced the physical. His gaze across the room now sparking a private warmth that promised more. I realized that my dog was offering me something that I hadn't even realized I was craving. I shared with friends, the story inspiring them to examine their own connections. We celebrated small victories, anniversaries marked with tender gestures. Nights where vulnerability led to passionate rediscovery. the subtle sensuality of touch underscoring our unbreakable tie, yet in quieter reflections. I pondered the journey's twists. Have those subtle signs of distance been essential, forging us stronger through the fire? Emotional intimacy isn't just about being close, it's about feeling understood. Feeling safe in someone's presence became our mantra, guiding us forward. My dog's companionship remained a cherished anchor. His nuzzle's a gentle nudge toward appreciating the multifaceted nature of love. Blending human complexity with instinctual purity, the realization culminated in a profound peace. Knowing we bridged the void not through grand acts, but through consistent, heartfelt presence, bodies entwined in sleep, breaths sinking in silent harmony. I had been craving something that went beyond the surface level. Sharing a life, a deep emotional connection, I whispered to him one dawn, our fingers laced, the future unfolding with promise. But as life continued its unpredictable flow, a final curiosity lingered. What new depths might we uncover, ensuring our bond evolves eternally? In the end, what started as a quiet revelation with my dog blossomed into a testament to the power of emotional vulnerability, teaching me that true intimacy thrives on being seen, cherished, and connected beyond words. If you're navigating similar waters, remember, speak your heart, nurture the spark, and let love's subtle flames guide you home. Have you ever felt that emotional pull from an unexpected source, reshaping your view of closeness? Share your stories below. Your experiences could light the way for someone else feeling adrift.